Okay, here we go. We're going to do a run into Sacramento to run an air conditioner sleeve over to the apartment building. So I'll go ahead and do a video of rural Yolo County and the downtown Sacramento area. This is our cul-de-sac on Avila Bay here. It's a real nice little neighborhood. That house we just passed is occupied by an attorney who's also a pastor at Grace Valley Christian Church. And he's been here 25, 30 years. And that house right there. And almost all the people on the cul-de-sac who have moved in the last 20 years are his parishioners. And also the cul-de-sac behind our house is primarily occupied by people who attend Grace Valley Christian Church. Cindy and I aren't religious, but anyway, it's created this wonderful neighborhood. There must be 12 or 15 kids on our cul-de-sac and the cul-de-sac behind us who go to the same church. So anyway, just a wonderful neighborhood. A lot of there's a guy who lives across the street from us. His son lives behind us. There's a woman who lives down the street. Her brother lives behind us. It's that kind of neighborhood. And anyway, it's just create a lot of cohesion. We have potluck, block parties, etc. So Cindy and I kind of avoid a lot of the Christian theology discussions, but they're very pleasant. They don't try to force their Christian theology onto us. So anyway, it's just a wonderful neighborhood. There's no through traffic. We're out on the far west edge. We're on the north and the west city limits of Davis, basically. So the development's called Stonegate. So we're sort of on the west end of the valley, west of Davis, and it's just very quiet. You can see, within a block of our house on the east, there's probably a 150 or 200 acre wildlife preserve, literally a block from our house, right down Bodega Bay cul-de-sac. And then a block to the north of us, you can see it's all wide open. Agriculture, for another 10 miles to woodland. So anyway, this is rural Yolo County, flat, which the way they irrigate and intensively farm here works out well. The Central Valley basically is alluvial plain. All the rivers flow down from the coastal mountains and from the Sierras, and have for probably millions of years. And so they've brought all the erosion down into the valley floor, and in some areas south of us in the San Joaquin Valley, the topsoil, I've read, is 60 to 80 feet deep, just because of the millions of years of river flooding. So very rich agriculture. Of course, our summers, the afternoon highs are around 100 all summer. So incredible sunlight. Probably some of the most productive agriculture land in the world. Between the fertile soil, it's flat, it can be irrigated, the incredible intense sunlight, hot temperatures from early May to mid-October. So anyway, off to the right there is North Davis Meadows. It's a golf course development. It's located about a mile or so. It's out in Yolo County. It's a county development, not in the city of Davis, but the development was done about 30 years ago, and it's mostly half-acre, three-quarter-acre lots, 3,000 to 5,000 square foot houses, and anyway, for some people, don't mind being a little bit outside of town. It's been very popular. The large lots. It's very quiet. Nobody ever goes in there unless they live there or if they have business there. So it's not gated, but nobody wanders into that area. So anyway, we're headed north now on Road 99. Traffic in Sacramento has progressively worsened in the last 30 years. So rather than just get on Highway 113, which is about a mile from our house, and then pick up 80 and take the freeway, I tend to take this back route. It's only a couple of miles longer, but I-80 going through Davis, eastbound and westbound, oftentimes is stop and go. I mean, even outside of rush hour. So, and then what happens is you have about 6 eastbound lanes. Highway 113, which is 2 lanes, merges with 80, which is 4 lanes in West Davis, and then it compresses to 3 lanes before the causeway. So it's just constantly backed up, stop and go. Sometimes it backs up for miles, say on a Friday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. And of course, the causeway, if there's an accident on the causeway, sometimes the causeway turns into a parking lot, and you can sit there literally for hours if there's a serious accident that creates complete blockage on the causeway. That doesn't happen very often, but occasionally it happens. So anyway, we're headed eastbound, crossing 113 now. And it's hazy today. Normally, especially from this overcrossing, you can see the Sierras, the snow caps on the Sierras, but there's just too much cloud cover today. So this is the Central Valley. It's completely flat, and the farmers actually have what they call land planes with laser controls that create a specified grade in the land for irrigation. So they'll start the irrigation at the high end of the field, and there's just enough grade that they've installed in the field to have the water run to the low end of the field. So it's very engineered agriculture. Lots of orchards. This is a brand new orchard on the right here. That's about 10 years old. But so flat farmland. Welcome to Yolo County. Both Davis and Woodland are somewhat, commuter suburbs for people who work in Sacramento. Davis K-12 schools have a very strong reputation. You can imagine it. 30 years ago, I think Davis was the most highly educated community in the United States. Based on number of advanced degrees per capita, etc. So, my cul-de-sac, we live kind of on an average cul-de-sac in Davis, and I think, my next door neighbor is a Harvard law grad. The neighbor's on the other side of us. He's a PhD protein biochemist. She's a veterinarian. We've got other attorneys, PhD scientists. There's a guy across the street from us. He's a molecular geneticist who works on corn DNA. And that's kind of an average cul-de-sac, nothing special. Just a lot of people with advanced degrees. Cindy and I are probably kind of average in Davis. She has a PhD in chemistry from Davis, and I have a master's degree in business from Sac State. That's kind of an average demographic profile for Davis. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and do a jog here around a drainage slough and head out east, basically parallel to I-80. So we're headed to the causeway, but we're avoiding probable slow traffic on the causeway. It's noon on Sunday now, so chances are a lot of people are going up to Tahoe, going down to the city, and there's probably just a lot of traffic on 80 this afternoon. There's a big cattle ranch off to the right. Cattle raising tends to be more in the northern Sacramento Valley, where the soil isn't as fertile and it's not as level, so it's more difficult to irrigate. But there are some kind of legacy cattle ranches around Davis. There's probably 100 head of cattle over in that field over there, maybe 150. You can barely see Sacramento skyline straight ahead, just to the right of that black car that's ahead of us. That's the city of Sacramento downtown skyline, barely coming into view now. So we're about 3 to 4 miles from the causeway now. I'm driving Cindy's Passat today. I was kind of skeptical of turbo engines when we bought this car. It was kind of early on in terms of turbo development, but it's turned out to be just a wonderful, fuel-efficient, reliable car, fun to drive. A lot of acceleration. She always reminds me of how skeptical I was about that turbo technology, and she really pushed it. I wanted to buy a Volvo. We had a Volvo at the time, and I thought we'll buy another Volvo, and she really pushed the idea of buying a Passat, and it's been just a really nice car, a lot of fun, and 32 miles to the gallon on the freeway. Sac Metro Airport is about 12 miles as the crow flies northeast, 12 to 15 miles northeast of where we are right now. So there's always a lot of commercial aircraft getting into a landing flight path or taking off, climbing to whatever their cruising path and altitude is going to be. That plane that just passed through the camera views looks like he's maneuvering into a landing flight path. They raise thousands of acres of sunflowers in Yolo County. You can see that sunflower field off to the right. Kind of pretty, bright yellow. They raise it for seed that they ship all around the world. And they've engineered the sunflowers. There's another huge field off to the left, probably out of camera view. But they've genetically engineered through breeding or recombinant DNA technology, bred the sunflowers to mature at about 3 feet tall, and then they develop their seeds. That the seed growers don't need stock, so they've bred the sunflowers. So first time I saw it, I thought it was kind of funny looking. Normally you think of sunflowers being 6, 8, 10 feet tall when they mature and flower, but these varieties only grow to about 3 feet tall before they start flowering. So anyway, this is I-80 directly ahead of us. They use oleander a lot in medians for visual barrier. In California, basically it's drought tolerant. It grows like a weed. It flowers, so it's somewhat scenic. And the only thing about oleander is the leaves contain a toxin, and there have been cases where people have cut oleander branches down and tried to barbecue with them. And if they barbecue in an area that doesn't have good ventilation, it can be fatal. You don't have to breathe a lot of the fumes before they become fatal. So of course there are a lot of median fires with oleander, and firemen have to be very careful to have good respirators, positive pressure respirators. There was a family in Davis about 45 years ago that apparently had oleander on their property. They cut some branches and they had a barbecue in a screened porch, and they thought they would go ahead and maybe like mesquite, they take mesquite branches to flavor the food. They used some oleander branches in part of their barbecue, and I think several people in the family died. It was pretty tragic. So anyway, that's the causeway straight ahead. Before the causeway was built, I think around World War II, maybe a little bit earlier than that, when in the wintertime, when the Sacramento River would flood, people would have to drive all the way down to Stockton to drive to San Francisco. And Stockton's about 50 or 60 miles south of Sacramento, but and then for a while, apparently they had a ferry service in the winter, and then I think around World War II they went ahead and built the causeway. Is about 4 or 5 miles long, so it's a pretty significant engineering and construction project. But I mean, with San Francisco growing and having so many people, and Sacramento growing and having so many people, it was just a necessity. Sort of like the Golden Gate Bridge, it just it had to be done, almost whatever the engineering challenges